Sometimes it's refreshing to take a step away from the modern era and experience something older. Something that's a product of its time that takes you back. And even though I never grew up with them, there's something about Telltale's early ventures into the gaming scene that gives me that feeling. You all know about Telltale, right? They're known for their story-focused games involving lots of player choices that don't actually affect the story. They're also famous for not being alive anymore. Sorta. Yeah, they went bankrupt a while ago, but that'll be more relevant later. Anyway, before they were doing funny stuff like that, Telltale was mainly just making adventure games of the point-and-click variety. I've mentioned Sam & Max a lot on my channel, I love that series to death, and Telltale made a very good point-and-click trilogy out of that property. There's just something about their old games that have this sort of charm to them. They feel so cozy, and I wish I got to play more of them. And there was one game in their library that had quite the weird concept to it, but it's one that I don't think anybody could hate. Unless if you hate fun. Okay, so what's the first thing that comes to your mind whenever you think of a crossover? Probably something really stupid, and the folks at Telltale Games had the same thought process. Essentially, they wanted to make a follow-up to their very first game, Telltale Texas Hold'em, which... Okay, so this game was originally selling itself as poker with personality, and man, that sure is one hell of a personality. You see, that game was just poker, but with a bunch of characters with defined personalities, and there'd be conversations and such throughout the game. I don't know, I've never played it. But hey, I guess now we know what the 1 million subscriber review will be. Funnily enough though, for this spiritual successor of sorts, they didn't want to use generic characters, and instead have the cast made up of well-known characters from games and other forms of media. And so, Poker Night at the Inventory was born, featuring Max from Sam & Max, Strongbad from Homestar Runner, The Heavy from Team Fortress 2, and Tycho from Tycho from Penny Arcade. The final product itself is really neat and has a lot of cool things to talk about, such as the game itself, character interactions, functions with the Steam inventory, as well as a bunch of other stuff. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. As per usual, let's start from the beginning. And man, what a beginning that was, because getting this game to boot up again was a pain in the nuts. Like, this kind of stuff is run-of-the-mill for old PC games, but for Telltale Games, it's a whole nother level of stupid. The engine the game is made with, the Telltale tool, is held together by spit, toothpicks, and an empty bag of potato chips, so that usually causes issues when launching their old games on modern computers. I went through so many hoops and hurdles, not only to access the game, but even get it to boot up in the first place. And when I finally did launch it, the footage was recording really well. For 7 minutes until it cut out. Because of all these technical problems I ran into, I'm going to be using footage from other YouTubers, giving credit of course. I really wish my footage didn't get all fricked up, but oh well. The game opens up on a very unlively title screen, but then it transitions into this great opening cutscene. The player is greeted by Reginald Von Winslow from the Monkey Island series and guided throughout the club known as the Inventory. The place looks great and you get to learn a little bit of history behind the establishment that nobody cares about. And also there are several cameo characters throughout the place. I thought that was really cool. However, we aren't here to look at funny stuff. We have a game to play, and boy do I have quite the bet. Let the games begin. The game is Texas Hold'em. Okay, so bear with me since I have a very hard time describing the rules behind this game. Basically, you're given like 2 cards for yourself, and as the round progresses, more cards will get placed at the center of the table. What you want is for your cards to match up with the ones on the table so that you can have the highest value hand possible. Say for example, if I have a 9 in my hand and there's a 9 on the table, that's good because it means that I have a pair. Boy do I love me some pairs. But you also have to consider what the other players have as well, like what if there is also a 10 on the table and one of the other players has a 10? That number is greater, so his pair would beat mine. No! No! It's not just about luck though, no. What makes Texas Hold'em so fun is the little bits of strategy to it. If you don't have a good hand and you think that the other players don't have a good hand either, then you could always bluff your way to victory, raising the stakes and acting like you will actually have a good hand. But that could always backfire and put you in a really bad position. Luggician, betting a ton of money when you don't have a good hand. It's about knowing when's the proper time to bet high, call other bets, or fold your cards and forfeit the round before you throw too much money into the pot. And when you do score that pot, dang bro, it just feels so good. Of course there's more to it than that, but I have a really difficult time explaining the rules of poker. And besides, while that's epic and all, I think it's everything else that makes this game so cool. It's all the fun of poker, but without the financial problems. Oh, and also you get to play with a bunch of freak show dumbos, but if I wanted to do that, then I'd just hop in a call with my Discord buds. In all seriousness though, the characters really give the game its personality. They'll start having conversations, and the dialogue and interactions here are so great. I like how Heavy is blissfully unaware of his status as a video game character, Max and Tycho getting along, and Strong Bad's ego being on full display for the whole world to see. Though that does create one problem, and it's one that's pretty common with fully voice-acted games. Say it with me now, repeated dialogue. A lot of these conversations are funny at first, and there are a lot of quotes that I swear I haven't even heard before. But then there are the common ones, and in my 2 hours of playing this game for this video, I ran into a select few of them upwards of like 3 times. Like, yes Tycho, I understand that the sweater stays on during sex. Thankfully though, that's not the only thing to make this seemingly average poker game stick out. Because the characters not only have their own unique quotes, they also have their own unique AI. Heavy plays pretty standard. It's easy to tell when he has a good hand because he'll start betting high, but otherwise he's pretty easy. Tycho is super passive and only plays if he has a good hand. Other than that, he's really inactive. So when he does participate in the hand, you know that you're in for trouble. Though, funnily enough, I actually caught him bluffing a few times. That's a really rare sight. Then there's Strong Bad and Max. I have never had so much trouble dealing with Max before. Max's playstyle is that he doesn't have one. In other words, he's like that one friend who isn't good at Smash, so he just plays as King Dedede and presses buttons. I know that because I was that person for a very long time. No, wait, better yet, he's me playing as Kazuya in Smash. Because of this, he's really unpredictable. Like, the whole round he'll act completely normal, and suddenly at the end he'll reveal that he's had 2 aces with him the whole time. He used to be the easiest character for me to deal with, but whenever I played the game for this video, nah, he was tough. And finally, there's Strong Bad. I want to take his cards, shove them through his butthole, and then out of his mouth and dig out his non-existent eyeballs with them. Strong Bad bluffs the most out of every character, so he can be really hard to outbluff. And if you do try to outbluff him, then he might surprise you by actually having a good hand the whole time. In my experience, he's either the first to bust out, or he wins a huge pot due to somebody else being stupid and betting too much against him. And I get it, if you don't have a good hand, then you should probably just fold against him. But would you really want to do that against this no PP loser? But those frustrations are just part of the package. I actually really like that all of the characters have their own unique playstyles. And it feels great to last till there's only one opponent left and you get into a tense 1v1 situation where you have to outsmart the AI and make all of the right calls. With all that out of the way, there's one other thing that this game is well known for. Sure, there are rewards for winning enough games, but what you really should have your eyes on here are the special buy-ins. Occasionally, a character will buy into the match using an item, and if you make them bust out, then you'll receive that item. If you manage to secure one of these, then it'll end up in your Steam account's inventory, where you can then use it in Team Fortress 2. That is such a cool feature. Now don't worry, because all of these are purely cosmetic items. You're not getting any sort of advantage by playing Poker Night. Even the weapons are just reskins of the stock weapons that all fresh accounts start out with. And I think they're really cool. I really like how the glasses look on demo, and I always use this watch over the normal one. I just like the meter on it more. Though Max's Luger morph looks kind of awkward, and his badge is barely noticeable. Still though, this was a really neat and creative feature that made the game even more worthwhile. So you might be wondering, what more is there to talk about with this game? Well, I guess I should mention that a few years later, it got a sequel called Poker Night 2, baby! This time starring Brock from Venture Bros, Claptrap from Borderlands, Ash from Evil Dead, and Sam from Sam & Max. And what really completes the package is GLaDOS from Portal as the dealer. Now I must admit that I haven't actually played this one because I wasn't as familiar with the characters. I only ever watched videos of it, but considering how fun the first one was, the many selling points such as the interactions, music, charm, as well as the unlockable items, plus how this one even includes an Omaha mode, like, aw yeah boys, sign me the frick up! Oh. Alright, so I've hinted at this multiple times throughout the video, and it's about time that I addressed this. Like I mentioned near the beginning, Telltale went bankrupt a while back, and because of that, a lot of their games were sort of put into a limbo, including both Poker Night games. They both got delisted from Steam, and as of now, there's no way of acquiring either game. Through legal methods, that is. Now I must say that personally, I do own the game legally. Through family share, that is, so I can never actually buy it myself. I took a peek at the discussion tab for this game on Steam when I was having issues launching it, and like 90% of the threads were just people asking what happened to it or if anyone was willing to family share it. Yeah, full-on disclaimer, I do not recommend sharing your account with random people you don't know. I understand that people on the internet are, in fact, very trustworthy, but don't. Essentially, if you want these items, then tough luck, dude, you're dick as frick. Like, my Steam account is officially more worthwhile than yours because I have a pair of funny looking shades while you don't. But seriously, this is really disheartening because it was a really fun game, but it's not possible to play it anymore. Like, the sheer amount of inconveniences I had to go through to even make this video was way more than it should have been in the first place. And I get it, it's a simple little card game, but it's still a game that I value due to all of its lovable little aspects, and I don't want to see any game get lost to time. Even though the issues surrounding the Sam & Max remasters make me raise an eyebrow, I'm glad they exist because at the very least it's still preserving those games. For the most part. I'll probably never get the chance to play Poker Night 2, which is sad because I feel like I'm missing out on some fun there. Now, there are probably still ways to access the game via the dark arts of being a pirate is a recipe. But I am not the captain of that ship, so you are going to have to sail without me. Funny that I bring up ships though, because when Telltale sunk, it brought everything else down with it. Though, I guess it won't necessarily be completely lost to time. It's funny because as I'm recording this video, the game sort of reminds me of Telltale as a whole. It perfectly encapsulates what I love about the studio's early games, and even though it's most certainly not the greatest game ever, far from it, I'll always enjoy it and have fond memories of it. And when a game so simple leaves that much of an impression on you, then that's really freaking cool. I'm Luggician, and thank you very much for watching.